Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. Okay, without any further questions, we will go ahead and take a vote to approve the agenda as it is. All those in favor say yes and type yes.
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 Anyone opposed? Say no, type no. Okay. It's unanimously, I believe. And we need a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting on August 15th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Holly with an H.
Thank you, Holly.
I see you. You're popping up now. Thank you.
And do we have a second?
Molly with M, happy to second.
Thank you, Molly. We've got some rhyming going on. All right. Any discussion on the minutes or any corrections that we need to make? I gave it a 10-second count. All those in favor of approving the minutes as they stand, say yes and type yes.
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 Everybody voted? Five. Everyone voted, right? I'm like checking the chat. All right, so our so that motion carried. Our agenda tonight, we will have Barb give us some DPI updates. I'll turn off the screen, but this is what she's gonna talk us through. Requests for communication related to DPI and the ELCC. A written summary update if possible, a request for that, and then some Act 20 updates. Okay, so I will pause my screen sharing and turn it over to Barb. Barry, hang on.
You were seeing the slide deck?
Yes, we are. Thank you, Barb.
Correct. Awesome. I'm using some slides tonight so that I remember to get to the things that you specifically requested. Thank you for providing the list of what you were looking for. That gives me some it gives me a chance of getting you what you want because I don't have to guess. And it also gives the people who are attending as members of the public an understanding of what they can expect during the meeting. So this is just copied from your agenda. So I'm going to start with the first request, which is about requests to DPI that are also addressed to the Early Literacy Curriculum Council and what the process is for getting those shared. For some context, there was a request that was made over email that went to both DPI. The Early Literacy Curriculum Council does not have a single shared email address. So the message was sent to the early reading inbox addressed to myself and the Early Literacy Curriculum Council. I was very focused on getting the person a timely reply, and will honestly say, as I did in my email to you, that I didn't notice that it was also addressed to the Early Literacy Curriculum Council. That was a mistake on my part. The person who sent the email had also been in touch with Decoding Dyslexia. So Katie had the email and forwarded it to the ELCC. There was one follow-up question from the person who sent the email. And when I replied to that follow-up question, I did at that point copy the whole email thread to the council. My response, DPI's response, was intended to be DPI's response. In no way was I replying on behalf of the council, and I could have said in my response, could have been very clear that this is not a response from the council, this is a response from DPI. So there were absolutely some lessons learned there from me. I did check in with Laura to see, to try to get an understanding of how often it happens that things come into DPI that are also addressed to the council. The other examples Laura and I could think of were communications from vendors. And in that case, including as recently as this June, those have been forwarded in a timely manner. So I want to give you a chance to ask. I think it's later in the agenda to talk about the content of that email and that email exchange. But if you want to ask any questions about the process, I want to give you some time and space to do that. All right, so let's move on to the next item in the agenda, which is curriculum concerns. What you see on the slide now, I apologize that it's small text. I wanted to get as much of it on there as I could. There is a link to where the text came from.
Hold on, Barb. Bill, did you want to
thanks, Katie.
address point B? That was for your suggestion. I don't know if you'd like to comment further on that, Bill.
Oh, sorry about that. Didn't mean to skip that.
That's okay.
Can we go back to that? And sorry, I am fighting a heck of a summer cold. So which point, Katie, are you talking about?
The written summary.
Yeah. So a written summary, one of the questions that I raised was the idea of, with the DPI report, a written summary. What we have before us, it would be, from my perspective, fine. It just provides an outline and a summary of what Barb and DPI are going to cover in their update or their report. And I'll just say myself that when there was a point raised at the last meeting, I was surprised at it. I think, Joe, you were surprised as well. And was not able to articulate as well what my concerns were because of the surprise. I have to say right now I can't remember it. But my point is a slide deck of bullet points of what you're going to cover sent to the council ahead of time would be great. And so, Katie, I think that covers it.
Thanks, Bill.
So if anybody else has any objections or would agree with that, I'm certainly am not asking just because I think it's a good idea that the DPI should put together the report. It just is helpful to me and is fairly usual and customary in what I see on other boards I'm involved with.
Yeah, so Bill, as a point of clarification, like for example, let's assume the third bullet point was already known probably late last week. And so typically what I would do, like for my school, like trying to use this as like a school board meeting, I would provide a synopsis of curriculum concerns, including reporting process, and provide a bit of context of what that conversation is going to be about. Assessments. So rather than just saying assessments, we would say assessments, and then this is what's being looked at, proposed, reviewed. Funding. Okay, funding with a little bit of detail, and then legislation with a little bit of detail. But then we would get it in advance, Bill. Is that what you're saying? Similar to, like, again, I'm trying to
Yeah,
put
like a
myself
board
in
packet.
Barb's shoes. Like would it be similar to like something that I prepare for the school board before the meeting type of thing?
Yeah, I didn't write the dot points on the agenda. They came from the council, and I prepared the slides that you'll see. I prepared the slides in response to the dot points because they are your council meetings. So I want to be able to respond to what it is that you're looking for. I generally get the agendas between, Katie, would you say between 48 and 36 hours before the meeting? Because they have to be posted 24 hours before the meeting?
Usually. But
Yeah.
if you wanted to do some sort of written thing, we could get them to you sooner.
I guess I'm wondering if you might be open to submitting the agenda points and um, receiving responses to the agenda points at the meeting, which is the process you have been using. I'm happy to provide slides or provide visual supports for during the meeting. If you as a council decide that you want to add a little bit of background information to the agenda items, that would give me the only two that felt like I was really guessing about was the funding and legislation. So if you want to add more to the agenda items, I'm trying to find
It's definitely
a
a
place here.
two-way street, Barb. You're 100% right. I mean, I think when we ask for the DPI updates, I think that we should be clear about what it is we want to know and give you some pointed direction in that. And then personally, I'm fine with the slides. If you have a slide deck that you're sharing with us and we can link that to, our notes, I think that's useful. We did give you a few more pieces this time, and I think that's a practice that we should definitely continue on. Does anyone feel differently or think there should be another way to approach this? Okay, Carrie, I saw you shake your head no. Thanks. All right. So I'm gonna just suggest that we go with the slide deck and that it's got we'll be more clear in what we're asking, and then Barb can respond. And we can use the slide deck as the written documentation if that works for the council. Does anyone feel differently about that or want there to be something else? Bill, I don't want to speak for you or Joe.
So would the slide deck be sent out with the final agenda ahead of the meeting, or would we see the slide deck for the first time during the meeting? Because what I'm looking for is the slide deck ahead of time with the points, frankly, so I can, if I have a question about it or a concern, I can raise it either to you, Amy, or the executive council of the board, or directly to Barb. But to see it for the first time and real time at the meeting, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for it ahead of time. Now, it could go out when the agenda goes out. And I think in fairness to Barb, if she were to add something between the time of the deck would be posted with the agenda or the link or however you want to do that, that certainly is her prerogative and understandable. But and then the last thing I would say is, if you could move the agenda prep up a few days, that might be useful and helpful to DPI as well. So it doesn't come in 24 or 36 hours before the meeting. But I understand exactly where Joe is. I mean, board prep was a big part of my job back in the day. I'm sure it's a big part of Joe's job, and you know, whatever the council or the board wanted in the past was pretty much what the superintendent provided.
I think we'd have to provide it earlier to Barb if she was going to be asked to prepare the slide deck. I don't think that would be fair to ask you to do that on short notice. So
I get the agenda at the same time as the rest of the council does, which is
Yep.
is fine by me. I'm not complaining about that because that works with the current procedure.
yeah,
Holly, you had a concern that if it was provided ahead of time, in lieu of the update made at the meeting, that people wouldn't read it and they wouldn't hear the update. The idea would be that there would be a summary of what DPI is going to update, and then we would hear that update as part of the regular meeting. If I'm catching your comments correctly, Holly.
A written report that's not then publicly discussed. I prefer that we have a public discussion about the written report if we do that. I tried to give Barb, or the executive committee tried to give Barb parameters that we could put on every agenda, that these would be things that each time she'd know that we were looking for, and then we could add to them if there were additional things. And so that's where we started this time. I can support any approach.
do others feel like they want the updates well before the meeting, or 24 hours before the meeting? How much time before the meeting would you want to see something?
I guess I can just speak for myself. I think, you know, some of the updates are not necessarily like directly related to the work that we're doing as a council. So I guess I would only feel that if there was something that was like going to directly impact the work that we were discussing or doing, then it's nice to know that ahead of time so we can kind of like think on that. But if it's not something that's like directly related, I mean, I know it's all connected, but directly related to the scope of our work, then I don't have a preference that it be submitted ahead of time.
Molly, Carrie, Itzel?
I'm on the same page as Megan. Having the information that directly impacts this committee is helpful in advance. Other than that, just appreciate the update.
Same for me. I know also, you know, I appreciate Katie, your communication, Amy and Holly too, but your communication. So I feel like we have a pretty good flow of bringing points up in between, and then they're always on that next agenda. So I'm pretty good with the way that's been going.
Okay. And Itzel said she agrees with Megan and Molly. Do we need to take a vote on this, or do you just want to informally decide how we want the procedure to go?
Well, there's no motion. If somebody feels strongly to do a motion, then we could take a vote. If not, then we can just carry on.
Okay. We'll let you think about that, Bill, and see where you want to go with that. And Joe's the same. So Barb, go ahead and provide your updates. Okay. Thanks.
I just want to summarize. The council is going to right now is agreeing to continue with enough detail in the dot points so I know what I'm aiming at. And if there are agenda items that are directly related to the statutory responsibility of the council, which is the creation of the list, I can get you that content ahead of time. I would probably need a heads up from Amy and Katie and Holly a little sooner than the current cadence, just about the agenda item that you would want to see prepared ahead of time.
Holly, were you thinking that you always want those agenda items that you listed under Act 20 to be what she discusses?
It seemed like those were the ones that in the past we had typically been updated on, which is why I listed them.
Yeah. So just standing updates on.
Yeah, I want to leave you the space to change those as we move through the year, because I think rostering is important today, and hopefully will not be important in April.
Right.
We'll be in a different place.
Thanks for your flexibility, Barb.
No problem. The clear communication helps me because I know what you're looking for. Okay, curriculum concerns. This slide is from the law and in the DPI website in 2 different places. These 3 dots right here, at least all of the following, that was where the list of the 9 areas of science-based early literacy was. I deleted that just so that things fit on the slide better. I'm including this so that we're all working from the same accurate information. Curriculum concerns could come up because the curriculum in general does not include systematic and explicit instruction in all 9 areas of science-based early literacy. Curriculum concerns, as I see it now, could also come up in 2 other places. One is about the purchase of materials, and the second is about the use of materials. So you see a couple dates highlighted. Beginning on July 21st, 2023, no school may purchase curricula or instructional materials that use 3 queuing. And beginning in this school year, 24-25, no school may use a material, may provide instruction. That's actually a really important language that I just screwed up. No one may provide instruction that incorporates 3 queuing in the core reading curriculum for kindergarten to grade 3 in supplemental materials, including materials used for reading intervention. I'm going to come back to this one in just a second. These are the 2 links that show you exactly where that information about curriculum requirements is posted. Curriculum requirements for early literacy is posted on the DPI website. And the last early literacy listserv, the edition that went out on Friday, had a link to a new section of the Act 20 webpage that's specifically about reporting concerns. We wanted to make that as transparent and easy for people as possible. So this is the DPI. Can you still see it? You see the website now?
Yep.
Right here in the left menu, you can click on report a concern. Log out so that you, oh geez. Here's the section where you would report the information about the instructional materials with directions to send an email with the following information and a commitment on behalf of DPI. There's also reporting for assessment and districts who may not be following. 118.016 includes the screener, the diagnostic assessment, the personal reading plan, the progress monitoring, and the early literacy remediation plan. And that statute does specifically call out that parents and guardians can file complaints. So there is a separate process for reporting that kind of complaint. And we can certainly talk more about either one of those. Make sure there's nothing else I want to say about
You
that.
say the audience is for that report of concern tab.
I think it could vary. I think there are certainly parents and guardians and members of the public and folks from different organizations who will report concerns. And then I think there are even people who work in schools who will report concerns. So I think it's pretty broad.
Okay, thank you.
Who gets that email? The email
Comes-
early dot reading, is that you, Barb?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Sometimes I feel like I'm the Wizard of Oz.
Well, you
It's
are.
me.
So that's
I'm
okay.
behind the curtain.
Yeah. I think sometimes like what's confusing though, Barb, like going back to the email that you received from that group that you were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
like there's like an early literacy DPI group, and then there's ELCC, and I think the people thought they were reaching ELCC, but we never got that email. Like it was addressed to the Early Literacy Curriculum Council, but we never got it because it went to some other.
It went to
email.
it went to the main email through DPI that's dedicated to this, and we don't have access to that, right?
And trust me, I do not want access to it. I'm just saying that I think, like with that group in particular, I believe they thought they were contacting us through that, but they weren't. So I don't know if we can clarify somewhere along the way, because like, as I see this now, like would I assume that early dot reading, because now I know that it's Barb, right? And I don't want it to be us, but somewhere can we clarify that it's Barb and not the ELCC getting those?
Well, I mean, the other side of that is, should there be something addressed to the ELCC? What's the protocol for us knowing what that is? I mean, I have zero problem with them screening out the curriculum companies and answering those questions because we don't want any kind of bias or anything showing up on our end. So there is a level of subjectivity to deciding. I mean, it's not black or white, right? Because we don't want every single email that's addressed necessarily, but we do want the ones that are, unless we do want the ones that are like that one that that Barb received, and she was responding on behalf of DPI. So with that said, what is it that we do want to see? That's my question to you all.
And again, I think the confusion is in, the handle here. People assume it's us, or at least they did in that case, and it wasn't. And so, to avoid, future confusion, I don't have the solution for it, I guess. And at the same time, I also don't know that I want all of those emails. So, I guess, I don't know if that's something that, the executive committee can talk about,
Well, we did talk about it, and that's why we're talking about it here, because the executive committee is not the committee, right? This is the council, and unless there's some decision to make, to have something given some reason for the three of us to meet separately on a specific task, that requires public notice. So we felt it was important to have this conversation with all of you to get your input on what we should see, right? What's important. So that's where we're at.
I mean, I'm okay with in the future just knowing to forward us the emails and I think that's probably enough, right, Barb? I mean, really.
Yeah. That was part of the
Otherwise it would
reason.
get complicated.
That was part of the reason I checked in, like really specifically with Laura about it too, was just to see like how often have these sorts of emails come And this was the first one that was specifically addressed to DPI and the ELCC. The other communications that we forwarded, like I said, have been from vendors. And I think that just makes my mistake even more high stakes, right? Because this was the first time it happened and I screwed it up.
Well, and you are new to this position. I mean, this position, Laura was just standing in until the director was chosen. So until now, there wasn't a specific person to address something to either. So that's all things to factor in. And I just move forward and know that you'll forward us the information that we need.
Yeah, so I'm good with that. You know, again, we don't need to overcomplicate it. Just
Right.
if it is addressed, just let us know. And then
Absolutely.
without coming up with another handle, with another link, with another anything like that, just I'm good. I'm good.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you for giving me some grace.
Absolutely, Barb. Thank you.
It's a topic I'm particularly passionate about. And so that I think that's really where my feeling to respond quickly came from.
You know, I'm sorry. The other thing too that I do think we need to be informed, but I also wonder if folks think that the ELCC has this additional authority that we really don't have, like other than selecting the curriculum. So, I think I just want, and again, I haven't looked at the website, with a fine tooth comb with all the details, but I also think that some people may think that, the council will figure this out. Well, it's really not, it's not up to us to determine some of the things that people may be asking for in the future.
And that's on our agenda tonight to go through, because you're absolutely right. There are specific things that we are tasked to do, and we just want to remind the public what that is.
And if after that discussion, there's ways that you think we can make that more clear through the DPI website, I can make those changes. I did want to come back to one other thing about curriculum that just didn't really fit in the flow earlier. So after the concern came from Moses, and after a couple of meetings with Ben the lawyer, Ben Jones, our legal counsel, the information that you see on the screen now was added to the website just yesterday. It is not on the council page. It is on, like you can see the link here, it is on the page that includes the statutory information about what's required in curriculum and includes the list. It is a reminder that in addition to curriculum and instructional materials meeting the requirements of Act 20, schools are still responsible for meeting all of the other requirements that are all the federal and state requirements that are part of education, like pupil non-discrimination and Act 20, or not Act 20, Act 31. All those other acts don't even exist in my mind. Act 31, pupil non-discrimination, and Act 31. You also asked for updates about screening and Ames Web, with Ames Web Plus being our screening tool that we are using. This is where most of my time is going right now. This is where most, but not all, of the email questions are about this topic. So we have an informational page on the DPI site, the Act 20 website, that is about both screening and diagnostic assessment. We are using the DAC Digest, and I'll explain what that is in just a second. We're using the DAC Digest as our consistent communication tool to independent charter schools and districts. And then there's also a Wisconsin-specific page that Pearson has built and continues to refine at this point multiple times a day. So the DAC Digest, a DAC is a district assessment coordinator. That is the person in a district who assumes responsibility for all of the state required assessments. DPI has pretty tight and successful communication protocols with DACs. Districts are accustomed to keeping the email address of their DAC up to date. So we are using those existing communication systems and structures. The DAC Digest is posted publicly online at the exact same time that it's sent out to DACs. It's always sent out on Wednesdays. So you could set yourself a calendar reminder for Thursday morning and read yourself the DAC Digest while you're having your coffee or tea. It is about every statewide assessment. So ACT, Forward, Access, DLM, they're all in there right alongside early literacy. Pearson is working together with DPI to make sure that the weekly updates in the DAC Digest are as timely and meaningful as possible. The Wisconsin-specific Pearson webpage is a wealth of resources. It is where people go to contact Pearson customer service. It is where people go to access other things that they are going to need. I think there's an agenda point about training, so I'll just go ahead and show you now that training materials are right here on the Wisconsin website. We will have 4 administrator webinars. They're all the same. It's not a 4-part series. It's the same thing 4 times in case people want to attend live. There is already a recording up of one of those, as well as a slide deck that folks can use in their own local training endeavors. This site also has information about rostering, which is what the majority of my questions are about right now, including some FAQs that Pearson is building and rebuilding and adding to based on the questions that their customer service is getting. I'm going to plow through and then pause and take all the questions at one time. Teachers need to be trained to administer the subtests. Training is important because administering the subtests according to the way that they're designed impacts the accuracy of the assessment results. So there are, at this time, 3 different options for training teachers. Option 1 and option 2 are both incredibly inclusive. So they're really designed from the viewpoint of a customer who is using everything that the Ames Web Plus suite has to offer, which includes math and some progress monitoring tools. So option 1 and option 2 are going to give Wisconsin teachers a lot more than they need to administer the subtests that are required in Wisconsin. Option 3 is related to the administrator webinars. So it doesn't just have to be an administrator that attends the webinar. Someone from the district attends the webinar or watches the recording and has the information that they need to design a local training so that teachers are able to get the exact materials that they need to confidently administer the required subtests. I can say that in the first 2 administrator webinars, there was around 400 people in the first one and around 300 people in the second one. And that wasn't like the number of people who signed up, like it was the number of people who were actually in the room. So those first two were very widely attended. Again, this is a review of what I was just talking about. Pearson also offers twice weekly office hours where anybody can drop in and get their questions answered, and that includes folks from around the country. So it would even be a place for Wisconsin teachers to perhaps learn from others who are using the same assessment. And I also want to feature that Pearson did offer more extensive training, 2 6-hour sessions for CISAs and for individuals from Madison, Milwaukee, Racine, Kenosha, and Green Bay. That was a very in-depth train the trainer model, knowing that we then trained people who are able to go out and train a lot more people. Rostering. All of the names have to get in to Ames Web Plus, right? The names of the teachers, the names of the students, it all has to get into Ames Web Plus. And rostering is the word that we use to refer to that process of getting information into Ames Web Plus. At this point, staff from DPI is meeting daily with staff from Pearson in order to ensure that when the rostering begins, through when DPI and Pearson begin the rostering, that the information is accurate and that it is respectful of any work that the district has already done within Ames Web Plus. Another focus of those daily meetings is making sure that the directions about how to roster are very clear. I hope that was noticeable, even just in the clarity and specificity of the update in this week's Stack Digest. So DPI is working side by side with Pearson on guidance, and we're even having schools and districts test some of the guidance as they use it for their own purposes. So at this point, there are 2 options for getting students into Ames Web Plus. Option 1 is to wait for automatic rostering, just like a real basic understanding of that. Every school has a student information system. That student information system is connected to the DPI WISE system, WISE. And the DPI WISE system uses a process called API to send the student data to Ames Web Plus. We believe this fall that will happen one time. So on one magical day, the data is all going to move. This is the same process that we use for Forward and ACT and the ACT suite. So it absolutely is a process that we can feel confident about. So once the technical aspects of it are ironed out, districts will receive the exact date that the transfer will happen. And then it is the district's or independent charter schools' responsibility to have the records up to date on their end. So once the technical problems are figured out, then there's also a window in which we have to give districts some time to make sure they have everything up to date, and then the rostering happens. For places who want to test right away, they can roster their students locally or roster their students internally. People are using both of their phrases. It's a spreadsheet that they can download from their student information system into a template from Pearson that has specific columns in it. They upload that to Ames Web Plus, and the students and the teachers appear in Ames Web Plus. And Pearson offers extensive customer service for people who are choosing that internal rostering option and we are able to identify exactly the things that it's really critical are correct. Like, for example, you need to use the district code that's assigned to your district. You need to use the school code that's assigned to your school. You need to use the WISE ID that's assigned to the student. So we do have places I have heard, I haven't seen like screenshots or data, that there are places who have already begun testing. And once they get their students rostered, they can absolutely start testing. Mid-year, because mid-year is when the assessment is required. Mid-year, the automatic rostering process will be up and running, and it will be set up in a way that doesn't override anything that districts have already done. So those places that uploaded their students themselves this fall, they wouldn't engage in the automatic rostering, and everything that they have in there would stay current. I'm going to pause for questions.
Did you share this slide deck in the chat?
Yeah, I can put it in there again for you, no problem. There you go.
Here for the details, Barb. Does anyone have any questions? Questions? All right. Then we will move on. Thanks again for the details.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Barb?
If you hear from folks in the field who are having difficulty, please connect them to me. Or if you hear things that you think can't possibly be true, please connect those people to me too. I love that people are resourcing and networking with each other to make this make sense for their districts, but I do think it, it sometimes results in urban legends, let's say.
Yes, it does.
All right. Funding and legislation. There was, and you probably saw Dr. Underly's statement on it. This is related to the funding part. There was a summary judgment in the lawsuit about the governor's veto power. DPI has the right to the remaining funds that are set aside for Act 20 work, which is the $49 million. But that the Joint Committee on Finance is the body with the authority to give those funds to DPI. So that body, the funds can't be accessed by DPI until the Joint Committee on Finance approves giving the money to DPI. And Joint Finance has not scheduled a meeting to approve that. And
they could schedule a meeting before the January sessions.
I believe so. Yes, they have had recent meetings. So there's nothing that would stop them from scheduling.
I just want to clarify to our team that just because they're not in session until January doesn't mean they may not be meeting before that.
Absolutely.
So that means the coaching piece is still in limbo because of the funding? Need to ask a question that wasn't on the agenda.
No, I mean, it's definitely related to the funding. The coaching piece is on hold until the funding becomes available.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, we do have not in the slides, but we do have a process. We're pretty close to a process where districts can let us know what they intend to submit for reimbursement. So those purchases that were made between January 1st of 24 and December 31st of 24. And then those purchases that are made from, if the list is revised, from a revised list after January 1, so we can start collecting, hard numbers about exactly what keeping these funds tied up means to our schools and districts.
Right. Good to know.
The part about the legislature not being in session until January, I don't have any updates on any sort of legislation to give you, because that's not happening while they're not in session.
I just wonder, Barb, I know it had been said before that there's limited funds going around, and even the 50 million allotted is not going to be enough to cover everything that DPI would like to cover. Has DPI asked the governor for any additional funding? Because I know he has access to funding.
Not to my knowledge. DPI has not asked the governor for funding. It is a budget year. So the governor's budget proposal will come out soon. All agencies are preparing their budget proposals, which inform the governor's proposal. And then that budget proposal for the next biennium is taken up in the spring legislative session.
I was just curious because there's always announcements of Governor Evers gave out, $50 million for this initiative or $100 million for this initiative or whatever. And it doesn't seem like it's happening during a budget year. It just seems like it's kind of random. Are you saying all that's planned ahead, or if that's something that DPI could ask for? That's a side question, but just
no. I don't, as I understand it, the governor doesn't have like a coffer. Sometimes if there's like a federal opportunity, that money might come through the governor's office, and we can investigate whether or not there are any funds that are available right now. But it's been my understanding that we haven't asked for that because the funds aren't there.
Thanks, Barb.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Right. Let's jump back into our content for tonight. We're on item 6 of our agenda, which has to do with our work around curriculum vetting. So just reshare my screen. Just 1 sec. You all see it? Okay, so curricular updates. Last time we met in August, we took turns kind of going through any questions related to navigating Lavinia, Great Minds with Wit and Wisdom, and HMH with Amira. So I'm going to put that on the table again and see where we are with support and helping each other locate resources. Remember, the conversation is not evaluative. It's simply helping us find what we need to find to be thorough in our process for review. Do you need any help with my tabs with HMH up here? I've been hard at work trying to find everything and review.
Just as a point of clarification, for the adding the scores to the Google Forms, that all still the same process as it was last year? Because I know that I thought we got links from Laura, but I wasn't sure like if I have to follow those links or if I can just go in like I did last year to get to where I need to.
That's a good question. We have
I thought Laura sent links.
Yes, I think she did send links. Yes.
So just what I'm asking is use those links.
The new links that you received this fall from Laura. Yes,
Okay.
This summer.
Do you want me to put them in a new email as I find them again, Joe?
No, I
remind
have
where
the
they are.
link. I just wanted to make sure that, that was the way that we were going about it, or if there was a separate place for me to go, just generally speaking, for all the various ones, but I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, it looks like Laura sent them way back in July, like
Right,
July 10th.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
all right, thank you.
Okay. and
Would Molly have gotten them then? We're trying to
She got 'em.
think. She
Yep,
got them. Okay.
she's saying yes.
Yes, I have them. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm going to just bounce back to our question here on navigating the programs. Does anyone have anything they want to bring to the table related to Lavinia, Great Minds, or HMH? Support on locating, navigating, finding. Feeling okay? I'm seeing some. Okay. Going once. All right, I'm feeling okay as well, so I'm just going to keep plugging along. And certainly we can message each other related to, hey, can you help me find something? We did that last year, and that's still okay to do this year. If necessary. So recommendations, so there's 3 other things on this curricular update piece, which would be recommendations to add a general curriculum disclaimer. Now, it sounds to me, based on what Barb shared with us, that the DPI kind of did that work for us by suggesting that districts need to pay attention to all of the details related to state statutes and Wisconsin standards to make sure that whatever resource they choose is in alignment with the law.
Maybe I wonder if that same language couldn't just be copied onto the link where our curriculum list is, possibly, for clarification, if people look there.
And this was the language. So this is what I just, again, from the same, I didn't cite the source, but this is directly from Act 20. This is what we're tasked with, right? The curricular to locate using science-based early literacy instruction, the definition of those 9 components, to vet resources, and to only look for things that don't have 3 queuing and that include those science-based early literacy instructional components. So thanks, Barb, for adding where the language currently is. We can pull that up. I don't know if we need this. I just put out some ideas down for you to think about. And we can let this go. Do we need a motion to talk about this, Katie, or do you want to?
If we want DPI to add it to the website, we could do a motion.
Okay, so
Did you send me this slide deck?
this is on our,
this
this has been our same slide deck
Okay.
that we always use. I'll just throw it into the chat.
Oh, that's different, yeah.
Yep, so I always use the same slide deck. And I'll frame this under, just so audience knows. So Moses contacted Barb, we talked about that earlier, and ELCC with some concerns about one of the resources that we vetted and suggesting that it was in violation of Act 31. And we did not, first of all, that's open for debate. And secondly, that that wasn't we did not vet based on content. We vetted based on the science of reading components. And we had a discussion very early when in this process last year about defining knowledge and do we go that far? I know Holly and I were remembering the same conversation. And essentially we stayed grounded in those foundational literacy skills that what was our task. So districts have to decide if the resource meets their requirements and if it requires modification. And I stand by the statement that there is no perfect resource. They all require some modifying. whether it's by content or by skill. And therefore, you know, as a wise consumer, you would need to make decisions about how you're implementing whatever resource it is you choose to use. So I'm going to pause there and see what others think. And if I've misspoken, please correct me.
I mean, I think it's a nice to have. I don't know if it's a need to have.
Right.
But you know, I can support it one way or the other. I agree, Amy, with you know, your assessment of the matter. But again, whether the DPI adds this or not, it's kind of, I'm good either way. But I'll support it if the majority of the group does, or I'm good.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe. Anyone else want to chime in on that?
So I think that this is good. The only words that are up for, that are rather vague are, you know, in regards to not specific content. So I think when I see something like that, content, but really the concerns that were brought up were it was related to content, but it was also much more nuanced than just content.
Absolutely.
And I think if we have a statement that just says content, then we're really downplaying the concerns of the stereotypes or so forth that, you know, I think I understand why it says that, but that is being rather vague.
And I, again, yes, you're right. Other thoughts? Would you prefer that we don't use one at all, that we just use the language that the counts that DPI has already put on? Which is right here. Barb, thank you for adding that in.
Amy, what if the language isn't indicating what we didn't do, but just what we did do,
Sure.
right? So maybe just framing the language around, you know, the ELCC reviewed curriculum according to the 9 components of, and use the language that way versus saying what we didn't do. I wonder if that just clarifies our approach.
I understand that, Megan. My thoughts on that would be that if a district is somewhat not seeing or reading that this curriculum was not viewed through the lens of other state statutes or whatever it might be, I think that I don't feel fully confident with that, because a district could take it, they start reading it, and then all that stuff is, you know, will be a decision that we didn't somewhat flag for them. So I understand it's easier to do that way, but I think we're not really naming that situation and saying as districts, I mean, you have it there, district staff will need to consider a variety of factors, including needs of their students and I mean, it says it in the second part there.
Mm-hmm. I guess I don't need to have considerations twice.
I would add federal in there as well.
Federal?
Because it is Wisconsin statutes, and there's also federal law, like the non-discrimination. A lot of the non-discrimination pieces are in federal law. I would have to run. I would want to, and I think you would want me to make sure that DPI legal counsel is in agreement with the language. And I also I want to, so there is an early literacy curriculum council page that I linked. And then there's a separate page that has all the meetings and the agendas. There you go. Yeah. So the curriculum list is currently, if you click on in the right left-hand menu, if you go up to resources for Act 20 and click on curriculum, the first paragraph is the language that Ben provided for DPI's use. Then the second part is the language about what you all vetted for. And then the list is down after here's the list.
I see it's all in the same section, Barb. Maybe you already did the work for us right there because it's divided into sections and then that's all at the top already. And you probably already took care of it.
I think you did. And I think this is great. I feel like, because this didn't exist until just recently, right? This is an update that.
The paragraph got added yesterday.
Yeah.
Other change was made. Time is weird right now. I think the other change was made actually a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, based on what I'm seeing now here, I don't think we need to mess around trying to come up with something different.
Agreed. Does everybody else feel okay about that? Okay.
I'm gonna, on the Early Literacy Curriculum Council page, I'm gonna link to this curriculum stuff so that it's very clear where people can find the list.
That would be great. Thank you.
That would be very good because we really want that to be clear. Right. Okay. So let me just reshare this so it's better. So just a couple of decision points that we need to come to consensus on. And we are obviously in September. So October 17th is our next meeting. And then on October 29th is our, should we need it, our final decision day meeting. So with that said, we as a group decided not to submit any scores on the Google form. Thank you for that, for allowing that to continue, just to maintain neutrality so that we're not influencing one another. We're able to be truly independent in our evaluation. So with that said, though, we are getting to the point now where we need to make a decision about when we press submit on the Google form. And keeping in mind too, that I went back and double checked our operating guidelines, and what we indicated was that we would independently, in our June meeting when we met as a group in person, we talked through this all, and following the same procedure, independently review our curricula and then submit the form. And once the form is submitted, we don't change anything. So what date do we want to click submit on to maintain that sort of no bias, everybody's thinking for themselves piece? And I know that we were thinking for ourselves before as well. I don't mean to suggest that we weren't. I like this added piece of just making sure.
We have the date for the next meeting where we have on the agenda that we would review scores on October 17th.
Yep.
Are we going to use the same process to compile the scores, or are Carrie and Amy going to work together? And then how much time would they need to do that if they do?
Unless anyone feels strongly that we shouldn't do it that way, I would love to have Carrie's beautiful spreadsheet action working on tabulating the scores. Yeah.
Sure, and I'd be fine to do that. But remember, I think on the forms we took off the words.
Yep.
It's just the number. So honestly, that's going to be super easy because it's just the average across the row columns. So I really think we're not going to have to do all that find, replace, and everything like we did last time.
Yeah.
So it really shouldn't take long at all.
Okay.
24 hours ahead would be more than enough time.
Okay.
If the team wants to do it that way,
Oh, you muted yourself, Carrie.
it really won't take anybody long to do it. But whatever the team wants to do as far as that process is good with me.
Okay. So by the 16th, by the 15th, does anyone have a preference? Carrie, do you want another day? I mean, I don't know what your schedule looks like. I don't want to short shift you on the time.
I think if we say by the end of the day on the 15th, so I have 16th to work with it, that'll be fine. Either the end of the 15th or the end of the 16th would be fine with me.
The 17th is a Thursday, so should we shoot for the Tuesday? So there's a little bit of wiggle room and breathing room. Does that feel doable for people? So we'll go by October 15th, that we'll have our scores submitted. And then there is a point of clarification that I just wanted to bring up. Let me just pull up the right document. Here we go. This is getting to Joe's question on, and the other agenda item, which was just clarifying our scoring pieces. Just gonna scooch this over here. So evaluation goals for October meeting, timeline for adding scores. Evaluation goals for October meeting, that's where we are on the agenda. So we'll submit our scores blind, and then Carrie will lead through the process of tabulating with her little formula. And then when we come back together, we'll review, we'll discuss, right? That's the point of the 17th, is to discuss the scores. So any program that scores by higher than 3.0 or higher is going to be an automatic yes. This is the point that Joe asked. Scores, any program that scores between 2.8 and 2.99, which would have been bookworms last year. The committee will discuss and take individual votes for potential approval. And again, that was because there's we're close to that 3, and do we need to have a more in-depth discussion about that program? That was what we did last year. I'm personally very comfortable maintaining that this year, but I want to open that up to discussion and make sure we're all on the same page for this year.
I guess, Amy, just as a point of clarification, does anybody have a problem with the highlighted verbiage? And if nobody does, then I think
Sorry about that.
If nobody does, then I think then we are kind of agreed upon.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I have the clarification I need, Amy. Thank you.
Okay, Joe. All right, good stuff.
Does Molly have a copy of that document?
She should.
I believe so. My inbox has a lot of documents in it right now.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm familiar with that range of discussion there, so I must have read this already.
Yeah. And we really do need to vote on our bylaws and on fully accepting these operating guidelines. I know we keep putting it off, but I'm just wondering if you need more time or if we're ready to take a vote on these 2 documents.
Thought we already voted on the guidelines.
Okay, I don't know why it says draft. All right.
Yeah, I think that was an oversight of.
Okay, I'm just going to delete draft. Okay.
And I realized yesterday late that I had forgotten to send the bylaws again for people to look at. So I apologize for that oversight.
I know there was a change that was made based on the executive committee, or was it just a clarification?
It was an addition that we voted on last week, but we already voted on that addition. So
Yes.
I mean, we could vote on approving the bylaws as amended or we could hold off. I could get everyone the final document. But that seems like a lot to go over at the October meeting, I guess.
Yeah, for the sake of pre-planning, I'd prefer to just get it over with and vote now so that we can put it behind us. I think it's been highly vetted by each of us. You know, Ben took a look at it. You know, I think I think we just got to get to a point to just be done with it, and we can revise and update as needed. And we won't have time to do it in October. So, you know, I guess if that's the case, I'd make a motion to approve the amended bylaws as presented.
We have a second?
I will second that motion.
And is there any discussion? I could be in agreement with Joe on this. So all those with no discussion, all those in favor of approval, do we need a written approval? We need the motion in writing. Somebody want to type it in?
Sure. It's short, so here it is.
Short is good.
That
Do we need the date as presented in the September meeting?
might be helpful.
Yeah.
Approve the,
Motion to approve the amended bylaws as presented in the September 15th meeting.
I would do, hold on, the bylaws.
Sharing this.
I would switch the words. Here we go.
Okay, so motion to approve the bylaws as amended in the September meeting as presented. That's the wording we're going to stick with.
Is that accurate, Joe?
I'll accept the amended motion.
Holly, is that?
Yes, I have no problem with that.
All those in favor say yes, type yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Seven, eight. Okay, motion carries eight. No one, and Bill is not here, so he had to leave early. Okay, thank you, Carrie. So it's 7. I had to step out for a minute, so I won't vote.
Oh. Okay. Do you want to abstain then?
Yeah, abstain. I'm back now, but I'm sorry, the superintendent just stepped in, so I just had a second. I was muted and I didn't hear that, so. Okay, so
I
I'm good.
understand.
You can just tell him to hold off next time. You know, he's just been meddling in your business, Carrie.
Right. Okay, so the motion carries 7 with 7 votes of yes, and then 1 abstain and 1 absent, with Bill being absent. Okay, thank you. I feel good getting that off our docket. So then that brings us to the last little section here. So we are going to submit our scores by October 15th. Carrie will lead the magic, and I'll just double check. And then when we come back together on the 17th, we'll have a discussion. I will review those scores, discuss the programs. So then if we're all in agreement, then those that score the 3 or above, they're going to be an automatic yes. Those that are in the 2.8 to 2.99 range, we'll have a more in-depth discussion. And then we'll determine if we need to have another meeting by the end of that one, because it could be that we only have 3 programs to view. So by that point, we should be in a good spot. Everybody good with this plan?
Can I ask this? I'll ask after you get feedback on that plan. The plan sounds good to me, but I do have a different question after this topic.
Okay. So we're good with the plan. All right, Carrie, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, as an ELCC council person, I'm assuming that we should not if we have requests from publishers that want to ask us about their program, that's a no. Because now that happened, and I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. Because at first I was thinking from my role, but then I was like, oh, that's why they're asking me for like a statement or like a quote about using their curriculum. So it is a ELA curriculum, and just by virtue of being on this, I think that, the committee would also agree, like we should not be into any of that.
I'm just going to ask a clarifying question. Is this a curriculum that we already approved?
It's a digital platform that houses a curriculum we already approved.
Okay. I mean, my best advice is to remain neutral and not to provide any comments one way or the other, Barb, I saw you turn your camera on, and I'm open to what others have to say.
Yeah, or, abstain if we get to a point where they're included, if you don't feel comfortable kind of separating the two roles.
Yeah.
So you're saying that would be a personal choice on Joe?
I mean, I think so. I mean, I abstained from CKLA last year, just because for various reasons, but I think, yeah, Carrie, that's up to you.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to check. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Just let me know.
Do we need any clarifying points on that?
I don't think so. I'm just thinking about the statute. It does say that there is a conflict of interest clause in there, but that I think is more about committee membership than it is about what you do once you are on the committee. And I think you're all so committed to this work that I think you're conscious and making decisions that wouldn't damage the credibility of the work.
And the conflict of interest is for payment, so I'm assuming they're not paying you, Carrie, so.
No, not in the education field for that. Thanks.
Okay, good. Are there any other questions about navigation of the resource? And let me ask also, are you feeling confident that you'll be able to complete the vetting by the October 15th date? Said yes. Really?
I'm starting to kind of get hives based on what we were doing a year ago, but I'm feeling pretty good this time around.
It's a completely different feel, right, Joe, than last year?
Yeah, it feels very manageable. It's been very.
And I do think it would be a good thing to do that again next year, where we walk through navigation of materials. I think that was a helpful step.
Okay. All right, then. If there's no further questions, we don't need to continue because we have our meeting set up for the 17th, and we've discussed our guidelines moving forward. So if you're ready, do we have any other agenda items before
I have one more question though, Amy,
Yeah.
because we were focused on getting the curriculum list out. What do we anticipate future meetings looking like after we get the list to DPI? Are we planning on taking November and December off and then meeting in January, or what kind of routine or rhythm are we going to get into once we have the list?
That's a good question. Well, I know that I think it would be wise for us to open up the vendor piece probably a little bit sooner than we did last year, or I don't know, maybe we announce it and let them submit. What your thoughts are on that, but do others have? Okay, go ahead, Carrie.
I was thinking that, in winter, like working on a district team, there's going to be questions that are going to come our way about the Ames Web Screener, about the reading plans. And even if it was not a full lengthy meeting, I think that would be very helpful. There are certainly people that reach out with questions, but a lot in terms of actual implementation is going to be starting. So that FaceTime with Barb, I think, would be very helpful.
So you're suggesting having a meeting like in January?
Yeah, I would be good for that, yes.
And I know that the list is supposed to be made public by February 1st. So there should be adequate time to make that happen. Are you guys all in favor of taking November and December, not meeting in those 2 months and then coming back together in January? Unless there would be some reason, an emergency meeting for some reason, but I said yes. Any other agenda items that we should add for next month's meeting? Besides the review of the 3 resources?
I had a question. When will the reading plans be ready to review?
The reading plans, like the from DPI,
Yeah. Are those out there already?
those are posted. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Barb, do you want to throw the link in? I don't know if you probably already put it up on one of your many tabs. Okay, thank you. Yeah, there's a link that has parent letters on it and also the reading plans and some other pieces. That's the link that Barb put in. Resource page. Okay, well, if there's no further agenda items, then do we have a motion to adjourn for the
Motion
evening?
to adjourn?
We need a second.
I will second.
Thank you, Holly. All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes. Type it out. All right, thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you next
you.
month.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.